and that, so you can kind of guess what
Hey,
we're
everybody
talking
on
about.
Facebook, just saying hi while I joined her on Instagram. We're just
We're coming
welcome
together.
to hello, Instagram.
There we
Welcome to
go.
True Mental Health on my end. Hi, everybody. My goodness.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh man. Oh, I'm moving my
So,
Instagram
we were
thing.
going to call this episode something a little more inflammatory because inflammatory. And we didn't. We just stuck to something more conservative, which is dealing with mean people. But honestly, this is a huge facet of what it takes to have true mental health, which is like getting that there are mean people, they do mean things. It isn't about you. And like, what do you need to equip yourself with to never be at the effect of anybody? So,
So there.
would you like to do you want to tell them where this all started? Because it actually,
Yeah. So I mean, I had a client reach out from someone that was in one of my group programs and email me about a particular micro thing. At least to my impression, it seemed like a very micro issue, and they had a very strong reaction to it. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like in the moment initially, there was this space where I was like, oh, this is interesting that they're choosing this. And I also want to kind of caveat this with, in psychology, we talk about how everything is a projection. Like everything that we are choosing, saying, or whatnot is projected from our internal reality, and nothing is personal. So it's like, I know that, yet I still got wrapped up in it.
it's
And
one thing to
so,
know it cognitively, another thing to like get it. Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
that experience really helped me get it.
Yeah.
So I knew it initially, and then kind of and respond to them saying, "Hey," like, kind of breaking down what their issue was, and then asking them, "Really, truth, is it about this or something else?" Because to me, it was clearly so much something else, and then they had directed it all at me. And they kind of dug in their heels further and were like, no, this was born out of anger and fury. And if you just switch this one tiny thing, this would be a non issue.
Right.
And I was like, but,
But
and so I immediately went into like, well, oh my gosh, like, should I have changed this? And blah, and like just went to all this doubt and wrongness and pinged you and was like, hello,
ow!
SOS. I know I'm doing something here. I saw it and then I lost it. It was almost like I was the space and then I got wrapped up in like the distraction of it, so to speak. Or then I
Yeah.
totally lost me and had to make me wrong, because it's like they were so sure that I was wrong. So I must be the wrong one. Let me go find everywhere where I'm wrong because they're right in their
Yeah.
scenario,
Yeah.
because their
And
feelings.
and this is the thing about when somebody is doing, and it doesn't matter who that somebody is, if they're family or not family, when somebody is doing big feelings and big point of view in your general direction, does that mean you're wrong? That's really the question that's not a question, right? Like if
Yeah. But I was going to hop in there regarding, because in psychology, it's also said often, your feelings are valid. All your feelings are valid. And so I'm like, what is that? But telling people you are right in how you're feeling. It's like, is that true though? Because if you are telling yourself something that is grossly off than what is, then is your feeling really true?
yeah. Man, there's so much in this. And so we're just going to unpack this ADD style because to
That's what
try
we
to do
do.
it in, yeah, anyways, because that's what we do. Okay, good. So, so if somebody's being loudly feeling in your general direction, does that make you wrong? No. And everywhere you go into trying to figure out why they're doing it, what you must have done to create this, and you must have how you must have done something wrong to create it is everywhere where you're looking for where they're right. So
Mm.
there, to me, there's a whole other kind of education to occur here for freedom to be a possibility. One of the things though I wanted to say is like I concur with like, people are functioning from whatever's going on in here. So, the projection of what's true for them is exactly where they're functioning from, which is actually why when you go in to try to figure out what you did to create it, it's non-functional. It actually renders you non-functional because there is nothing. They took a point of view and a thing in their world. They twisted what you did around it and told you that you did something wrong in order to accomplish something. But it's the in order to accomplish something part that we don't actually perceive because we're so busy trying to find out what we did wrong to create this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing I want to say is like when somebody, just because somebody's being loud and big in your general direction, either silently or verbally, does not mean you did anything wrong. And now I want to like elaborate on all the different terms that you can use, because it's one thing to have that cognitively, and it's another thing to start to really get it energetically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then the other piece to this was that I liked the person. I liked the person. I had engagements with them. They seemed really excited in some of the calls, and we had a connection, and et cetera, et cetera. And that it ignored other little kind of red flags, so to speak. Like, just when I observed at their amount of engagement in the content, they really hadn't done a whole lot. I mean, there's quite a bit, but it's just like there wasn't a lot. They had payments that failed multiple times. Now, I can appreciate this. That happens. And I was like, okay, what is this showing, though? That there's just a lack of presence with what is happening in their life. And so the way they kind of turned it all around of like, I paid for this program when I didn't have the money. I was like, who chose that? Who chose that? And I was like, and I didn't get like, and though they were still strong in the conviction of making me wrong for that. And I was like, fell into the whirlwind of it, so to speak, with still in the likeness of the polarity of the judgment.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about that, when people so whenever somebody's sharing their truth with you, their whole intention is to make you wrong, just so you know. Yeah. I just want to share my truth is I want to be right. I want to share my point of view, and I want to make you wrong. This is that actually is. And I think this is where I want to insert the bigger, broader thing that you really do need to know if you're going to never be at the effect of mean people again, is that people do things to accomplish things. So, for example, people, and this, I know this flies in the face of psychology, and Janine, at any point, if you want to like stop me and we can unravel it, let's do it. But like, people do feelings to control other people, for example. That's the purpose of feelings. Now, I mean, truly, that could be its own episode, because that's a huge thing, right? People are like, mm-hmm. Well, my feelings are valid and they're right. Mm-hmm. And I have feelings and all this stuff. But that's all the stuff that we do to make ourselves right. Even when I'm doing feelings. And if any of you guys are in a relationship, you do feelings, ladies, raise your hand. Like that, you know, every time I'm doing it to be right. And I'm doing it mm-hmm. to make sure that he knows I'm right in an effort to be right. There is no other purpose other than to establish my rightness. And man, we could go into that times a godzillion about why we need to be right so bad, but it's all from my point of view. I'm right from my point of view. I'm going to do this thing so that you know I'm right from my point of view, and therefore I win. Which is how we're taught to do it. And is it functional? No. But do we all do it? Yeah, and to varying degrees. So someone can take that out into left field and like send you a nasty email and go, I'm just sharing my truth with you. I'm giving you feedback. I'm giving you feedback. I'm sharing my truth. Those two things mean you are for sure 100% about to be abused, just so you know. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to give you feedback. And what will always follow that is the list of things that you've done against them that means that you're wrong and they're right. So what you always have to look for in there is what they're attempting to accomplish. Because if you don't look for that, you will get lost in looking for where they're right about how you're wrong. And that's one of the things that was going on for you. You're like, well, I guess I kind of, and then doubt. And all of a sudden you're swept away.
Yeah, I was totally distracted within all that I like couldn't even see what they were choosing. Like I was like and then I was up in feelings about it and like going into all the shame. And yet it's like, I will say, you know, I get that it's a different point of view than what psychology says about feelings. However, a lot of where psychology is going, or where some people are doing research, is showing that feelings, the sensation of a feeling, is only 90 seconds. Right. And we solidify it by whatever story we tell ourselves about it. So it's like, it's this brief wave, and then we go into a story, and that makes it solid and dense and real in our body. And then here we are stuck with it. Now we got to tell ourselves more stories about it.
Well, that's really brilliant. Yeah, because like one of the keys to total freedom from the consciousness side is like, don't listen to, don't tell, and don't buy the story. But, you know, it's like in these moments where what a trigger really, like, so it triggered something, right? And what a trigger really is this secret maybe even not so secret point of view that you have about yourself, fear that you have about yourself already, this negative belief that you've already got going about yourself, that this random person has just like punched in the gut. And now all of a sudden you're in what you've already decided is true about you, which is, I mean, there were so many things that came up, like I don't deliver good value and all these other things, right? That just, yeah. So then you're in the story. Then you're just looping in that energetic story, which is, thank God for consciousness tools, because then you can like hawk and podge your way out of it. You don't have to figure it out or any of that. But but that's the whole purpose of what that person is doing, is to incite that sensation in you so that you'll give them what they want. Mm-hmm. And so being able to see what's really going on underneath what someone is delivering is like the most valuable tool that I've ever gifted myself, because I personally had a really, really rough family dynamic. So I had a lot of gaslighting that went on. I had to really look at this, because especially with family, like these people that are incredibly close to you, you like them, you love them, they should be this way. They there's the ideal of what family should be, that family just never is. Families are just people, right? We're thrown together. We do the best we can. And so I had to really wade through and start being able to identify, when they say they love me and then they do this, I'm confused. Why? Because it doesn't match energetically. That's why. So I had to start being able to pull these things apart and go, wow, there's what they're saying and there's what they're choosing. And what is what they're choosing? What is this? What's the energy here? And that's really what gave me a lot of skill in dealing with any kind of mean people, because now I can just kind of see right underneath it. And for the most part, 80% of the time, I don't buy it. And that's the thing to really strengthen in your own selves, is like, what's really going on here that has nothing to do with what they're saying it is? What's the energy underneath? What are they trying to accomplish here? Mm-hmm. And that's really where I took you. Yeah.
Because I was looking at how it triggered like some needing to prove energy that's just been kind of like within the gamut of whether it was like always been in a ballet environment where it was highly critical, or just me constantly seeking out another degree, another certification. Let me prove that I am good enough. Let me prove my worth. Like, see, I'm worthy. And so someone like, and then I put out, over deliver and do all those things. And then someone's like, this little thing is wrong. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God, it's the end of the world. I did the thing that I was trying not to do.
I might as well quit. Time to give up. Packing up my bag and I'm
like, take the knife from your throat and just sit there and talk to me first. But I'm so grateful too for the times I've called you and I'm like, help me. I'm like 2 years old right now. Like, I've got nothing.
And so it's like, we're acknowledging how, I don't want to say real, but how it like, in that moment, it just feels like it has this like grip over us. And yet when we can just you had me drop into my body and just get present with what is, rather than going up into my head and to doing all this like spiral about it. And I was like, no, I can see this even through the tears. I see it. Okay, just breathe, take a moment. I can reconnect with this. But it took like getting present, being conscious, and being willing to look at it and not let the story take over.
Yeah. So guys, there's so many different tools you can use with this, but I think the information is good because then you can recognize where you're at. So if you're down at the bottom of the pit, 2 years old, freaking out, okay, cool. Just like feel your feet on the floor, pull up energy up from the earth, breathe. You can do some tapping, like whatever it takes to really pull yourself back into being present. And then start to look at, what is this person attempting to accomplish here? Because that's really all they're doing. They're just trying. Sometimes it's just to be mean. So I have to be honest with you, and this doesn't really relate to the thing that I want to wrap up our story of your thing, because it was good. He was actually just wanted his money back. And I was like, here's what you can do this, it'll change it. But there's other times that mean people exist. I think this is something else that, like, as the kind, creative, beings that we are, we just don't want to know this stuff. Mean people exist. People do mean because they do mean because they do mean. And this is the ultimate understanding in why people choose anything. There are people that just choose to tear other people down because they can, because they enjoy destroying. That said out loud so that you don't think you're crazy, because gaslighting is something you've experienced in this lifetime in one way or another to varying degrees, whether it's been in your family or it's been, I had a person I worked with at a garden center, like when I was in my 20s, I know 30s. I was over 30. I was married for the second time. I had taken this job at a garden center in this small little town. And this girl made it her life's mission to make my time there the most miserable she could possibly make it. And I could not understand it. And at the time, I had no tools. I didn't have any of this information. It didn't make any sense because it didn't make sense. It just was what it was. She simply decided that I needed to be destroyed, and there it was. And so the whole 4 months that I worked there, I was constantly dealing with the terror of this woman. And so, what would have been really helpful is if I'd have known that people like that exist, and I would have known, I don't have to be scared of you. I'm just going to be scary, and you don't get to do that. And there would have been some clarity in my world around it. So know that those people exist. And number two, like, there are other times people do meanness in order to get what they want. And so how can you recognize that, and what can you choose is where I'm always going with it.
Yeah. And it's like, there is the space before we go into the like trauma and drama gets swept away. And it was longer for me. It was like longer than just a knee-jerk reflex. And I get the sense it's because I've done a lot of this work now. And so I would look at like, what does it take to kind of elongate that space or perceive what it is where you initially don't react. You initially don't go into like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? There is this space in between there. And so like, what does it take to create more of that? Because if that's your initial reaction, then is that not what's true?
Well, it's what's true. It's what feels true.
Yeah.
And I think this is an important distinction. What feels true and what is true are 99% of the time different.
Yeah.
Feeling is different than sensing. And the reason we kind of keep talking about getting yourself present is because you can't sense from a feeling place. You want to get a sense of what they're trying to accomplish, which you cannot do if you're up in your head and you're in your feelings. So it's like, so yeah, and for me, what's elongated that space, that gap, right? That gap between like total reaction and
yeah,
the ability to choose, I guess, yeah. Right? Those two things, right? Because that's something that I'm constantly working on in myself, even now with other things, not this. This for me has gotten a lot easier. But I have to tell you, like, I really worked on this mean people thing for like probably 40 years of my life because I had so many of them. It was so dominant in my world that I needed to master that almost first. So now I'm mastering something else, but it's the same sort of thing. It's like I react and instantly I'm like gone, until I bring myself back. So for me, what created that gap was starting to recognize that I wasn't crazy. There was actually something going on. And so having good information was first, which is why I want to give you guys good information. The second part was like recognizing the next time it occurred. And for me, it was occurring a lot because this person was in my family. Was recognizing, okay, it's occurring again. Now what's really going on here? And then I could ask myself different questions. And then the more I did that and the more I practiced that, the gap just naturally occurred, right? So but it starts with good information of like, this is not about you. This is something that they're doing, and they're doing it because they're doing it, and that's what they do. Now, what's going on and what is required are the only two questions. And so those right there start to, create that gap really naturally.
Yeah. And kind of like you said earlier, it's like one thing to get something cognitively, but then to get it at a body level. Cause I'm like, I know this. I know that people project or do these things. And yet like I had another experience where it was like, oh, wow, I just got this at a deeper level. I'm curious though, like what you were saying earlier regarding the like feeling and sensing, because can you explain kind of the difference when people are like, I'm sensing this, I'm feeling this, etc.?
Well, if somebody is saying out loud to you, I'm sensing this, they're also doing feelings, just so you know. So
just trying to use the right word. Trying to
it's okay. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, there's these things that we do to make it look like we're doing consciousness, and then there's consciousness. And I know that makes me sound like an asshole, but I can be back on the show. Because I've also done it, but it's like feeling is, but your bodies feel things, right? And so your body contributes to sensations of things, but bodies feel, they don't sense. So bodies pick up on the feeling of energies. And then we, the beings, go to conclusions about them, or we go to question about them. And that's access consciousness is about strengthening you, the being, to go to more question or all question all the time. So help me God. You know, what would it take?
It's my religion.
Yeah. Question is my new religion.
Yes.
No, but it's like, but honestly, my life would be so much easier if I was willing to go to question all the time, because it's when you go to the conclusion about a feeling that you stick yourself with it. So, you know, like when this person emailed you and all this stuff came up, I goddamn guarantee in the microsecond that it came up, it was awareness. And then the microsecond after that, it matched a story you already had, or 5 or 10 stories you already had about you. And then you were in the shit. And that's what happens. We have a microsecond of awareness that is this sensation that would turns into a feeling. And then we don't ask it a question until like 30 minutes or 10 years later, when we're looking at it and finally go, wait a minute, was that even mine? And what really was occurring here? And that's when we get present with it. The moment you actually go to a question about the feeling, which actually started as a sensation, then that's when you can get awareness about it. And awareness is a spherical reality. It's not an answer. It's not a direct line. It's this spherical, okay, getting something. That's how awareness works. And question always leads you to awareness. So when it was easy for me to look at this email you received with awareness, because it wasn't about me at all. I was third party removed, and also strength and years of experience, but also not mine. So I could look at it and go, oh, well, this person just wants their money back, and also they need to go away. So if you want to, try this. And you did that, and it worked. But it was like so easy to perceive what was really going on underneath. And that was just the sensation of what's going on in this person's world and getting it on an energetic level. I didn't need to think about it, figure it out, go to any feelings about it. I just got it. And that's how awareness works. It's a grokking. And that's why I love that work so much, because it's the only word I've found that even explains like what the F awareness is. So you were talking about the difference between feeling and sensing.
Yeah. I'm just looking at how long this process has been for me to return back to knowing that and trusting that awareness versus what other people are saying, because it's just, I continue to get where people say one thing and mean something completely different, whether they're aware of it or not. And then it's like, you almost go into the doubt of yourself. You're like, wait, they're saying this thing, but they're energetically, I'm perceiving this. And it's like, you know what I mean? And so it's like, that is strengthening for me now, where as I'm following it, I was like, oh, you're saying you want this, but it's like, you really want this. Okay, no, I'm out. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think it's totally, well, I mean, me too. And I think what I didn't get when I first access consciousness for me was the introduction to this, that what people say and what comes out of their heads are two totally different things. And the way I would say it is, what people say and what they're choosing are two totally different things. They are literally choosing something so they got all these words going, like when you're hiring somebody, or if you guys have ever taken a job, you say all kinds of shit you're never going to do. Like, just, and it's not
over deliver and work 20 hours a day.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love this job so much. I mean, like, I'm so in. And maybe for the first 2 weeks you are, and you're like the model employee. And then after that, you settle into kind of what you've discovered you can get away with. Yeah. So kind of how every job works. We really kind of settle into the comfort zone of performance, So so that's kind of a cheerful example. But then there's these other times where it's like, like a parent, an abusive person in your life is saying they love you and then punching you in the face. Like, you have to really look at what's going on here. Is that actual care? Right? You have to actually untangle that stuff for yourself. When somebody says they're giving you feedback, is that actually what they're doing? What is feedback really? When anybody gives you feedback, what is it they're doing? And then you have to look at the energy and kind of observe, like maybe look at a sampling of 10 different feedbacks and going, is anybody actually ever, attempting to build you up, or are they trying to do something else? What are they actually doing with what they're saying? And that's the thing that's always fascinated me. And I think what makes consciousness facilitation so interesting for me, because I'm constantly facilitating the energies instead of the thing that's coming out of people's mouth. But if you don't educate yourself on that occurs, what people say and what they're choosing are two different things, almost like 99% of the time, so many times. And that's what'll piss us off, because things aren't congruent. They don't match up. And so we're kind of like tweaked almost all the time, because I'm like, You know, that person that says they like your dress, but you can feel them stabbing you in the back. You're like, why do I feel so confused about this person? Because they're doing two different fucking things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's just like if we weren't so dynamically entrenched into this judgmental reality universe, it's kind of like the thing that was popping up for me was just like that kind of really heightened over the past couple of years, like cancel culture, call out culture. It's like, well, I'm doing the right thing by holding you accountable because you must say X, Y, Z, and that's right. And it's like, what are we doing? We're totally right. Exactly. So then they're the right ones. And it's like, then we're totally diminishing everyone's, I don't know, expression, if you will, or whatever, like contracting people to be this one way because that's all there is. The end.
I think we need to say out loud, though, that judgment has always been a part of this reality, and it's just showed up so differently in different parts of history. I'm in Paris right now. I'm looking out the window. I can see all of Paris. I mean, this city's been around for centuries, you know, and it's functioned from multiple types of judgment over the centuries. You know, now the judgment that's showing up is we can just freely message somebody and tell them that they're wrong, and here's why.
Yeah.
And that's okay because I'm right. And so rightness has been like the way to be in the world for as long as I can. You know, I read books, I watch things, I study history. It's like rightness has always been the thing. You know, religion is based on rightness. The Spanish Inquisition was based on rightness. The witch trials are based on rightness. If you look at any event in history, it was all based on this is right and you're wrong and I will kill you for it. And so now the acceptable means of killing someone is feedback and sharing your truth. That is not okay.
Comments on your social media.
And comments on your social media. And that is not okay, but it is occurring. So it's like we need to equip ourselves with knowing what is, knowing that that's judgment and rightness, knowing what's true about us, and strengthen our being to be scary and not scared. Because there is nothing that's more powerful than allowance. And allowance is not a doormat. Allowance is, this doesn't work for me. Goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, so man, that's like my life's work, I think, is just to strengthen, to be that in the world. And so like, what would it take to be that for yourselves? And man,
I have like, you know, multiple clients that show up on social media and have said before about, you know, sometimes the hate comments like will stop them from wanting to create. And it's like, oh, no, you know, kind of what we were talking about. It's like, you do not have to tolerate that. You know, if someone drops that on your page, they drop the shit we were saying in the house, then they can be done. They can be removed. You don't have to allow that, right? Just because like you're showing up online does not mean you have to be in front of a firing squad. Like, no, these are real people here, like not just, you know, here to be abused.
Yeah. And I guess the only additional thing I want to add to that is that it also means nothing. Judgment actually means nothing. It can only mean something if you make it mean something. And so the more significance you give it, the more weight you give it, and the more you give judgment root in the world. And so now I just see those comments. I'm like, I guess I'm getting somewhere. People don't like me. I've gotten in front of enough people that now they don't like me. How does it get better than that? You know, so that's my point of view. I've had to cultivate that over 10 years, but it's like, what point of view would you have to cultivate and really choose and really look at? What would you have to look at as true? You know, is judgment real or is judgment not real? Are you making it real? If you didn't make it real, how much freedom could you have to just be you? Fuck the bitches who don't like it. Those bitches aren't going anywhere anyway. So, you know, like literally, what would it take to just see what is and strengthen what you want to be real as your reality and recognize what's occurring when it's occurring so that you're never at the effect of it.
Be scary, not scared. Hashtag.
Yeah. So if you guys want more, you know, I don't know if you need sessions. I don't even know. Just like, you can always reach out to us. I mean, both of us do private work and private sessions. I don't have any particular classes on this right now, but you know, like infinitebeingschool.com has 10 different videos that you can use to assist yourself in getting out of where you've made judgment real. Because that's the thing that really makes this almost impossible, is that we've made other people's meanness and judgment real. We've even made it real about ourselves. It's not. So go there if you need that. Janine, you've got the membership. Like,
membership. And wow, that's like evolving dynamically. And but I also have the Outcreate the Noise masterclass, and I was just like, oh, I get that this is actually like part of it, like outcreating, you know, what the noise is of what other people are saying, going into the judgment, or have, you know, deciding what this reality is. And so you will now be at effect of it. And I'm like, no, what else is possible? What else could you create? Could you truly just create a reality you desire versus what everyone else is choosing? So that's happening.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And yeah, just keep going, you guys. Take 2 more steps. And if you know you ever just get stuck in what somebody else has delivered at you, get the support you need. Reach out to a facilitator. We're both facilitators. We both do sessions. Don't buy that shit. Don't be at the effect of mean people. Be scary, not scared. That's that.
Hashtag.
All right. We're out. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.